Fantastic finishes in the Sunbelt. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, we will get to all six basketball games that are done. All of them were on East Coast time, including the main event that is going on as I speak. Usually these games go on at 8, but this one was going on at 9. I will not update the Arkansas State Marshall game because it'll be done by the time you see this episode, so no reason to update an old score, basically, is what it will be. Okay, so you will not get updated scores from that. And again, it's too late to stay up and watch this, to do this 2 hours from now. So, but that is the main event. All the other games we had 3 fantastic finishes. The Old Dominion game, Texas State game, maybe a little bit closer than the score would indicate. Some free throws were made at the end, and then 2 blowouts. All right. And one was actually closer at the end than the score would indicate. But we had 3 really good basketball games, and never a doubt in lovely Boone, North Carolina, as App State pulls it out over Southern Miss 60 to 58. And again, App State starts earlier. They have 6:30 ball games. I don't know. I love it. Also, even the 7 o'clock ball games seem to finish staggered, because I saw the end of Georgia Southern and the Cajuns. I saw the end of Troy and JMU. I was able to see the end of ODU and Texas State. They just seem to be staggered, although outside of App State, they all started at 7. So I was able to see the end of most of those basketball games. And so we can talk about them. The Georgia State game was a blowout. I was watching South Alabama, and that turned into a blowout. So I was able to go over to the App State ball game, and Southern Miss had taken this lead late. App State led, I'd say, for most of the ball game, but not that much difference. 20 minutes to about 13 and a half minutes, so it was tied for a little bit. And it's an App State ball game when it's in the 60s, right? 60 to 58. And Southern Miss actually, Southern Miss had a 3-point lead in this game. And App State actually had they got it down to 1, did App State. And App State had a good defensive play, a block on a shot on a layup. Got a block shot. App State brings the ball up, and then Southern Miss gets a steal and a layup to go back up by 3. But App State's Connors hits a corner 3 to tie the ball game up at 58. And then Southern Miss misses, and App State got the ball back with about just over 7 seconds left in the game. All right. They tried to get the ball back in bounds, and then they got tipped out of bounds. And so they had to do it again. And I can't blame Southern Miss for the way they defended the play, and go back and watch the play, because they really did a good job on Myles Tate. The problem was they forgot to cover C.J. Huntley. Myles Tate weaved his way through the defense. If he was the one who put up the shot, it would have been a heave and a lucky shot. But no one covers Myles Tate. Myles Tate didn't inbounds the ball. He set a pick, or C.J. Huntley set a pick to get Myles Tate open, for a second while they inbounds the ball. But then C.J. Huntley just kind of ran down court. I wouldn't even say sprinted down court, just came down court with Myles Tate, and he was a little bit ahead of him because Myles Tate was weaving his way, again, just under 7 seconds, and all of a sudden, Myles Tate has an opening. Instead of shooting, he sees C.J. Huntley under the bucket and barely got the shot off in time because he dunked it, and gives App State the thrilling 60-58 victory. And that was a big time because it does keep, I believe, App State is it a tied? Are they all tied for, I think they're all tied. Are they all now tied for second place because Troy lost? Is that where we are now? Yeah, everyone's tied for second place now because Troy lost. Oh, that's going to hurt my head even more. We'll get to that one. But that's why that ball game is so huge for App State, because then they would have fallen back. They would have been 7-5. Yeah, they would have been way back. Yeah. Technically, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they would have been tied for 7th. Technically, yeah, the way that works out. So huge win for App State. Certainly a win and move on. They do have the MAC game right coming up. That game doesn't really matter. Let's see who they have. Why do I think it's Miami of Ohio? I don't know who. It is Ohio. It's the Ohio Bobcats. Remember, the MAC visited the Sunbelt to begin the year. Now, who they have to begin with, I don't even know. It was Miami of Ohio. They lost 77-63 to begin with. Now they're going to Ohio. The Bobcats are pretty good at home, not that great on the road. 12-10 overall, 9-1 at home. And this will be, opposites. Ohio likes to get up and down. They score 80 points a game, but they give up 75 points a game. So that'll be opposites in playing style. And then after that, App State is going to Coastal. I mean, they're going to Coastal. They're going to Georgia State, and they get Georgia Southern at home. They have 2 tough games against Marshall, and they get Georgia Southern. It is not the most difficult of basketball games remaining scheduled for App State. The thing is, because of the way they play defensively, it's always a struggle because they don't have a lot of offensive firepower, right? The other team knows they don't have to score a lot of points to beat them. That's the thing. So they're always in. The other team always is always in the game because they don't have to score a lot of points, whereas App State can always win because the defense travels. Right? So we'll see what happens here. That's a great win by App State. They were winning for most of the second half, I think, and then sort of gave it away, down by 3 twice. And Connors hits that big clutch corner 3, get a good defensive block. Don't panic when they get down by 3 again. And Myles Tate finds C.J. Huntley under the basket, and App State comes away with that big 60-58 victory. All right, let's take a timeout. South Alabama breaks out of the slump in a big way. They take down Coastal Carolina. We'll talk about that next after I tell you about Game Time. Looking for tickets to your next big event, whether it's a concert, a comedy show, or sporting event, finding the right ticket at the right price can be a headache. But with Game Time Picks, it's never been easier. And let me tell you how it works. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. I've been using Game Time Picks for a while now, and here's why I love it. The curated deals make it super simple to find great tickets at a great price. No more sifting through thousands of options. I recently grabbed a super deal for a prime seat, and I couldn't believe the value. It was a steal. The seat view features is a game changer. Before I even hit buy, I can see exactly where I'll be sitting, and it'll look like in the venue. It's so reassuring. And the best part, you're covered with Game Time's lowest price guarantee. If you find a better deal somewhere else, they'll refund 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if something comes up. Ready to make your next event even better? Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. South Alabama has been in an offensive funk for the better part of 2 weeks since they had that 20-point lead against Troy about 2.5 weeks ago on that Saturday, even though they won that basketball game. And they won the last time out against the Cajuns, not so much tonight against Coastal Carolina. Remember, last time out against the Cajuns, they beat Louisiana 62-58, I think was the score. That was in 45 minutes. They scored 63 points in 27 minutes tonight. They blew out Coastal Carolina 84-59. And believe you me when I tell you, it was not that close. That's a 25-point ball game. They led at one point in time, 71-33. And then Coastal Carolina got hot. Coastal Carolina, I think at one point in time, I saw Craig Stevenson, South Alabama beat writer, because at 71-33, that's when I switched to the App State game. He said Coastal Carolina hit like 6 straight threes. They made 15 out of 38 threes. And I guess South Alabama went cold for a little bit, but South Alabama was in control of this ball game. They led 43-20 at half, and shot lights out at one point in time, shooting over 60% from the floor. And I think it went up in the second half until they cooled off a little bit. And that was after, again, they were leading by 38 points. Again, tough to keep that intensity up when it's 71-33, and maybe some guys got a little bit more playing time, or some guys got some extra playing time. No one played. Broom played 30 minutes. That was it. Some other guys played close to that. Ormiston, as a bench player, and he did start the second half. He's not shy. Got 12 minutes. He's going in there to play. He's going in there to shoot, and he got 12 points. Did get 4 fouls, 3 assists, and 3 rebounds, and hit his free throws. That's a pretty solid ball game for a guy coming off the bench. Myles Corey had back to what he was doing early on in the season when he was leading the Sunbelt in scoring, 27 points in 27 minutes. Barry Dunning Jr., most of his points coming in the first half, had 15 points. Cooper had 10, and it was just all South Alabama, and they led almost the entire ball game. It's been a tough year for Coastal Carolina. South Alabama dominated. They get Akron in the MAC Challenge. Let's see who they have coming up, because they do get Marshall coming up here somewhere along the way, and they get Arkansas State. This is not nearly as easy. They get Marshall and Texas State at home. Those are kind of must wins because they're at Arkansas State. They're at Texas State. Now, it doesn't end with the hardest ball games. They're at Southern Miss, and they get the Cajuns at home. So can they win 4 out of those 6? If they win 4 out of those 6, they got a good shot at being a number 2 seed. If they can win 4 out of those 6, that's easier said than done, I think. All right. And obviously, if you win 5 out of the 6, I'm giving away the Arkansas State ball game. But if you win 5 out of the 6, you'll definitely be the number 2 seed in the conference. All right. Elsewhere in the conference, let's do that's the wrong score. The stats on here has the wrong score. Georgia Southern actually beat the Cajuns 83-82. That's funny. The stat company that keeps the stats has the Cajuns winning 82-81. That's not what happened. Georgia Southern beat the Cajuns 83-82. Cajuns led most of this ball game, 31 minutes, and they let it slip away a lot like they did for a lot of this year and what they did against South Alabama last time out. And the final moments were tough to take. They actually had a 1-point lead, and Muta'u Akil fell down on the winning drive, slipped, and Georgia Southern was able to get a layup. And then Wright tried to take it to the hoop, and he was denied. Georgia Southern hits 2 free throws to take a 3-point lead, and Georgia Southern fouls the Cajuns. Cajuns had a shot to get a shot off and then didn't, and Georgia Southern fouled them. And then London Fields, trying to miss a free throw, the second one, made it. Line drive shot straight into the bucket. So there was no rebound to get. And so Georgia Southern throws it long, and Georgia Southern actually wins the ball game 83-82. That kind of year. They trying to miss a free throw and making it. I don't know if that encapsulates the Cajuns' season, but that is, he certainly shot it straight. Muta Akil had 24 points, hits all 10 of his free throws. Not a 3-point shooter, so they took him out of the game, but they put him back in the game to get the rebound, and then there was no rebound to get, unfortunately. And Garnett didn't have a shot to make a 3-pointer. They just didn't get one, and the Cajuns go down. It's been that kind of year. Georgia Southern snaps the winning streak, snaps the losing streak. Cajuns were winning for most of the game and most of the second half, but they do come up short, 83-82. All right, one more. Well, you know what? Let's take a timeout. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We got a few more games to go, including JMU upsetting Troy and making it. Let's see, what is it? It is a 1, 2, 3, 4. Right now, it is a 4-way tie for second place in the Sunbelt. Marshall wins, it'll be a 5-way tie for second place. We will do that when I come back after I tell you about Prize Picks. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to make it even more exciting than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports with over 10 million members and billions in winnings awarded. Prize Picks makes it fun and simple to get in on the action. Here's how it works. You pick more or less on at least 2 players' projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Prize Picks even has a free pick for a big game where Patrick Mahomes needs only to throw 1 yard to win. Pair that with one more correct pick, and you're cashing out. All right, this week, I'm looking at the big board, and I'm actually going less than Patrick Mahomes, 252.5 yards, but I'm going to pick more than Travis Kelce, going 62.5 yards receiving. Get that? All right, check out the promos tab to tell any of the super sweet Millie winners big game lineups. If you tell a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can split with the $1 million in promo funds. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your teams every day. Quickly, speaking of Georgia Southern, National Signing Day, they snuck into the 3 spot, according to 24/7, right? We did have Ben Moore, and ironically enough, he did say, and that did change, one of their players, I think the quarterback, did get a 4th star. So it was Georgia State, Arkansas State. Georgia Southern in the third class. Cajuns fell to 4, and Troy was 5th. All right, let me check that quickly, because that's what I thought I saw. Let me see here. Yeah. So Georgia State 1, Arkansas State 2, Georgia Southern 3, Cajuns 4, and Troy was 5th. Coastal, Southern Miss, Old Dominion lists 29 commits. JMU 18, Texas State 24 commits, App State, South Alabama, Marshall, and Monroe. That is the order as of Wednesday night on National Signing Day. But I think the big movement between Monday, Tuesday was Georgia Southern getting into that third spot. All right, so Clay Helton doing a number there. But, of course, the big news is Del McGee being in the number 1 spot and holding on to that. All right. Basketball-wise, again, we had some fantastic finishes, and JMU does a number against Troy. Again, because we don't get the odds, way in advance, let me see what they were, because I wouldn't be surprised if JMU was favored in this, just because of the road stuff and everything along those lines. I still would think that Troy would be favored a little bit, but maybe not. They have about the same exact record, so maybe JMU is favored in this. Yeah, JMU was favored, and they covered. JMU was favored. In fact, it went up. JMU, interestingly enough, opened up at 1.5. They got favored by 2.5 points. They covered. JMU beats Troy 64-61. So technically, not an upset. So maybe JMU is one of those teams that can make a run in the Sunbelt Conference tournament. They've just been so inconsistent this year, because they've had some bad losses, although all of a sudden they've won 5 in a row. This is coming after they've lost 3 out of 4. And they got hammered by App State. They got hammered by South Alabama. They eked out a win against Coastal, but they did beat Troy at home. Let's see where they're going. They don't have the toughest. I'm telling you this right now. They don't have the toughest of all schedules left. At Georgia Southern, at Coastal, Georgia State, Georgia Southern, at Monroe, and at Texas State. That is not the toughest of all schedules. Look at that. Outside of the road games, those are all very winnable ball games. JMU doesn't play particularly well on the road, but those are all very winnable road games. All right. Troy actually was winning this ball game late. Troy had the lead in this game. They took the lead, and I think they made a free throw to take the lead late. And JMU got it back. Yeah, it was 61-60, and Mark Friedman made a layup to make it 62-61. And they say they called a foul on Rigsby. Oh, there was a charge. They called a charge. Too many games. There was a block. I think there was I thought there was a block. Maybe there's a different ball game. See, I'm watching too many games at the end. That may have been ODU and Texas State. So there's actually there was a turnover on Myles. It says a foul on Myles Rigsby. JMU drew a charge on Troy, and then Xavier Brown hit 2 free throws to solidify it. In this case, JMU let Troy hit a 3 or attempt a 3, and they missed. So JMU hangs on. Again, these two teams have basically the same record. JMU is 15-9, 8-4 in the conference. Troy is 15-8, 8-4 in the conference. Interestingly, Troy got off to a slow start, but has been really good since. James Madison, I thought, had been kind of wonky and has been smoking hot over the last couple of weeks. That's a me problem. So I'll admit that. All of a sudden, they've won 5 in a row. And again, I mean, maybe at Texas State. Honestly, which game are they not going to be favored on? They get Toledo on Saturday, but they probably be favored at Georgia Southern. They'll be favored against Coastal Carolina. They're hosting Georgia State. They're hosting Georgia Southern. They're at Monroe. They'll be favored there. Maybe not at Texas State. I mean, could JMU win 10 in a row? I say South Alabama could be a number 2 seed, winning 5 out of 6, but maybe not, because JMU, here's the problem. So JMU has 4 games on the road. They're not that great on the road. Nobody's that great on the road. So they do have 4 of their 6 games are on the road. All right. That's the only thing. So we'll see. All right. As we've seen some teams struggle on the road. So nonetheless, an impressive win for JMU at home, taking down what I think is a very good Troy basketball game. All right, a couple of games that were not particularly close. Georgia State with a nice win. And again, I keep on seeing ULM getting destroyed, and I'm trying to figure out how South Alabama lost to them. But Georgia State hammers ULM 97-64. This game was never close. Georgia State led 51-30 at half, and a nice, easy win for the Panthers. Tenari Lane with 22 points for Georgia State. Brown had 19. Nutter off the bench with 18. Bolden had 17. Colty Young had 19 for ULM. And let's see here. One more ball game. Again, this game was a little bit closer than the score would indicate. Old Dominion and Texas State, 75-64. Old Dominion ball game at home. I was listening for my guy, Scotty Jackson, but hashtag humblebrag. He's on Radio Row down at the Super Bowl. So he wasn't doing the game. And Old Dominion got contributions from others than Dura Gordon and Davis Jr. Although those guys had big ball games. Dura Gordon had 20 and Davis Jr. had 18. But let's see here. Johnson had 14 and Swanton Rogers had 10. Swanton Roger had 10. So they got some help from guys that they usually don't get some help from. It's usually just the 2 guys going in double figures, but they had 4 guys in double figures tonight, beating Texas State. So 75-64. So quickly, I think those were all the games. And again, Arkansas State and Marshall going at it, not giving you updates, because when you see this on Thursday morning, that game is going to be over. That game did not start until just after 9 p.m. Eastern time. So quickly, the Sunbelt standings heading into tonight's action. Arkansas State atop 9-2. They will remain in first place, whether they win or lose. It'll either be a 2-game lead or a 1-game lead. South Alabama, Troy, James Madison, App State, all in second place at 8-4. Marshall will either be tied for second or 1 game back. They'll either be 8-4 or 7-5. So they'll either be tied for second or technically in 7th is the way it would be, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. They'll be tied for 6th. Texas State, Georgia Southern, Southern Miss, and Georgia State And the Cajuns all 5-7. And then Monroe 2-10 and Coastal Carolina 1-11. All right. We will preview, I guess we'll just check out, on Friday, the MAC matchups. Also, they had preseason baseball polls come out. And again, take those with a grain of salt. I mean, the teams, the coaches don't even know their teams. And I can tell you that by a great example. So Southern Miss was picked to win. Troy was picked second, and the Cajuns were picked third. And 5 votes separated the 3 teams. But just to tell you that, just to give you an example of the coaches don't know their own teams, okay? I'm pretty sure, and I could be off on this, but I'm pretty sure, let me see here. I want to make sure I say his name correctly, and I'll say, when I see it, I'll say it correctly. LP Langevin, okay, I'm pretty sure he was the Cajuns' Friday night starter to start the season. Ended up being the closer of the year, or the relief pitcher of the year in the conference. So that tells you how much these guys know their own team, meanwhile someone else's team. Right? He went from the Friday night starter to the to the closer of the year. Oops. As an example of how much they know their own team compared to how they're supposed to know anyone else's team. Things change. All right. If he wasn't the Friday night starter, then I'm sure he was the Saturday night starter. So he was in the starting rotation. Then they moved him quickly to the bullpen where he was much more effective. And for the most part, last season, unhittable. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. We made it. We did. We got to 1,860. We'll figure something out to do. We'll recap Arkansas State and Marshall. We will do that for Friday's episode a little bit, and then we'll preview the MAC. Well, that's what we'll do. So that'll be easy to do, and we'll go over the baseball as well. Softball is actually starting this weekend, so there's plenty to do for Friday's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great Thursday, and we'll talk to you again on Friday. You've been watching and listening to Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day.